over 27 years of experience in various leadership roles within the San Francisco Police Department. Can you all hear me okay? Can you hear me? Perfect. Alrighty. And then she's been our chief of police here in Lincoln for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. And next to her is Stanford Bradley Jr. Most people from Lincoln know him as a mentor, as Binko, or as Junior. But he is very connected to the community. He's been doing youth service work for over 10 years. Just at 10 years. He is currently at Malone Center overseeing youth programs there. And next to him is Ishma Valentini. Thanks, close.
That's great, sorry.
Okay.
Now the Italians say that.
And he's been working over 2 decades, correct? In youth services. And he currently is the director over all of youth programming at the Malone Center. And so I will turn it over to them, and you all will be enjoyed. I'm going to close this door too.
I didn't know she could project like that. That was pretty good, right? Can you all hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So welcome. My name is Tracy Owens, as Sarah said. We are going to jointly talk about bridging the gap between youth and law enforcement. Obviously, it's an incredibly important topic to discuss. Lincoln is a great place to really be because we have amazing partners as law enforcement. And so it's been a long time partnership, and I was blessed to come in at a time and gain from that. And I've learned a ton. My department got their butt kicked in basketball, if anyone was paying attention, which I hope you weren't, because we got dunked on within seconds. Good, and he'll tell you. So this is the breakdown, overview of Lincoln Youth. It's hard to tell, but right here we have white population as far as race, black 8%, Hispanic, and so on. 1% being American Indian. You can't really tell the difference between the two, but I just wanted to be really clear about that. And then the percentage in detention. So we have 43% white, we have 4% American Indian, we have 35% black, and then 14% Hispanic. Yes, disparities. Kind of everyone agree to that? I mean, it's stark. You know, these numbers are not different really across the nation. That's what we're seeing. And it really is about us creating these programs and understanding where we are as law enforcement, but also as community and what we need to do better. Now, the mission for us, create positive interactions between teens, their families, and the Lincoln Police Department. These interactions work to create trust, respect, and understanding between police and community members. That's one of our biggest things in the Lincoln Police Department. More and more community engagement. It used to be, I came in 1995, most of you were not born yet, and I understand that, but we didn't have very much. We went with like 1 or 2 community meetings. We went with 1 or 2 events, you know, but now it's every year we have to think of more and more. And what are we missing, most of all? And so in having the great partnerships that we have in Lincoln, we're able to actually do that. Because I can tell you right now, both of them can come to me and be very angry about something, and I'm gonna listen to them, whereas in 1995, they wouldn't even gotten in the door. There are changes in which we've had in law enforcement, and we have to look to our partnerships. Our partnerships are so critical. So I listen to my police officers, I listen to the community, and it's about being honest with ourselves. There are disparities that exist within society, and we have to look at that, both internally, but also what's happening in the community and how that affects the community.
So for the curriculum, me and Ish would do a program that is called Take Pause, and so it goes towards the mission that she shared earlier, but the curriculum to our program is to restore and build relationships through activities that promote teamwork and critical conversation with participants. So, you know, when 2020 happened and, you know, there's all the protests around that was a time where we were able to have our kids and some law enforcement get together and kind of have those conversations and kind of go kind of piece by piece and just have those open dialogue of what's going on and how things could have been better, different perceptions of the event. We were just able to talk about it. But we have youth guided activities to empower them to build these relationships. And then, like I said, discussions are, we choose the topics, whatever people are comfortable talking about, that's kind of what we talk about. We try to be open and raw. The kids have a safe space where they're able to, speak freely about how they feel and what's going on, and officers kind of, hear them, understand them, and they kind of give their feedback. But, so the biggest part of it is giving the kids the opportunity to be around law enforcement and build those positive relationships and not feel like they have to be uncomfortable. And so we kind of break it down through a lot of different activities. So we do, I might even have my stuff that activities. But you can go to the next slide. I was going to start talking about the activities, but it might already be in here. Our program initiative is crime prevention and violence reduction. A lot of networking, introducing them to new people, new opportunities, taking them places, just giving them different experiences that can change kind of how they view their own life. If you have never seen somebody own a business before and you're 12 years old, you're able to go talk to a business owner that looks like you and kind of can change how you view the possibilities of your own life. Effective and appropriate communication, domestic violence prevention, healthy lifestyle choices, and then diverse perspectives.
So, really, it's so important that with these type of programs, I think the biggest goal here is to have youth and police officers have more familiarity with each other. We know that the perceptions can be really tough, and that's a multitude of things that cause that. Whether it's the past, whether it's the media, or whether it's the perception that we get from the constant narration of community against police that we see happening constantly. And there's good reason for that sometimes, because sometimes police don't do the right thing, right? Sometimes community doesn't do the right thing. We have to be honest with those things. But to start that healing process, to start the relationships, to be able to braid or to grow, it takes both of these people coming to the table, or both these groups coming to the table, in non-law enforcement situations. So that's the biggest thing. Most of the times, the kids, they have all these interactions with the police when they're coming maybe to stop a crime, when they're coming and maybe taking dad away out of the home, when they're coming and they're taking uncle away, and then that's your perception. That's the thing that's embedded into your brain is, oh, that cop is bad because they came and took dad, right? That cop is bad because they hurt my brother. Well, changing that around and being able to have the police come and do activities that are non-law enforcement orientated. So, for example, when the police can come and they can hang out with kids and play a game of kickball, right? And you can have police being a captain and they pick youth, and the other police officer being a captain and they pick youth and they're not in uniform, there's some plain clothes. And they get to understand that we are the same type of people. We like the same type of things. We like the same video games. We do the same things, and they get a familiarity with each other. And so these goals, having these communicative skills, we're able to do that because we're taking that stigma out of what a police officer is. And that's the big thing. Now these kids can see the police officer as just a regular person. They can see the police officer as someone that they can go talk to and feel comfortable with. Vice versa, the same thing. Now the police officer, the only interaction that a lot of times they would get with youth, let's be honest, we're in Lincoln, Nebraska, there's 4% black people. How many times does the white guy get to have an interaction with this black teenager? Well, especially the police officer, the only interaction a lot of times they're having with a black teenager is what? A law enforcement situation where they come in maybe and stopping a crime from happening, or a crime has happened, they come and they're trying to then respond to it. So instead, now the police officer's getting this opportunity to create this relationship and these communicative skills with the teens in a different situation. Now, right, I say this all the time, now that police officer, they have, just being very, very honest here, the white police officer has nephew that they, can align with, right? So when they go and stop a white kid, they probably see that nephew, right? They see, or maybe their son, they see that familiarity in them. But that didn't used to happen when they stop a black kid or they're talking to a black teen. They don't have that familiarity. They don't know that culture. They don't know that significance. When they stop the Yazidi kid, they have no idea about that culture. I said that because I see Jenna here, and she works through Asian Center and brings a lot of kids to our Take Pause program. But now they get to work with that youth. They get to be in a cool situation where it's not law enforcement, it's really relaxed. They're having fun, they're bowling, and they're doing something really fun. And they're having these real conversations. So now when they're on the street, it's familiar. Now, oh, hey, this black kid reminds me of Token that I work with. Or this Yazidi kid reminds me of Xander that I work with, right? And so now it takes that stigma out both ways. Again, too, when you have these decision-making skills, now these youth, they can make these decisions now when they come to the police officers and the police officers asking for some information. Something happened detrimental in the community. Now the kids aren't saying, oh no, don't talk to the cops. No, stop snitching, I ain't gonna talk to him. But instead it's, oh no, hold on, we can talk to him. I know him, I feel familiar with him. I can go and talk to Rick, right? I can go and talk to Courtney. It's okay, it's okay. And they can tell their peers that. Vice versa the same way, the police officers can tell their peers that. No, it's okay, I know why, right? He's not a bad kid. These kids like him aren't bad. We can help him in this different sort of way. So that's a really big thing when we talk about paradigm shift and these positive possibilities, right? It really is a paradigm shift. So the youth aren't looking at the cops as the enemy. And then the cops aren't looking at all these youth as just delinquents. And I know it might be like, dang, you should think that that's what they look like, but we're being very realistic here. Because if you don't have experiences with different people that aren't like you, then these stereotypes, these things that are seeded into us constantly, this is what will happen. And so we're able to break down those barriers, change those perceptions and things with these types of programs. And it works. That's the really cool thing about it. If you do the work and you get these people to meet at these non-law enforcement situations and you create programs and you have wonderful people that can believe in them and fund them, then you can really break those barriers and you can see the goals starting to happen. To whereas, for example, I'll have police come to me and say, hey Ishma, I had to go stop a party. And everybody was saying, there's a group of kids, teenagers saying, no, don't talk to police, F the police. But then there's one kid saying, no, hold on, no, I know him. I can talk to him, I know him. And this happens, that's a huge breakthrough. Because those are things that are monumental to be able to change and shift the nature, not only of policing, but the nature of how the community looks at the police. That's why these programs that we're doing are so important, they're so monumental, and they're making the change.
So right here is the trophy that we won when we played the game. So just to recap that, since it popped up, the score was like 78 to 30 something. It could have got a lot worse, but our kids took it easy on them. The highlight is on LPD's Facebook if you scroll down. We had a good time. But with that, we turned it into an annual basketball game. So every year, the Malone kids that participate in Malone programming will get the opportunity to beat the police in basketball every year at Northeast. And then you can't see our whole plaque, but it's at the Malone. And there's a couple spots on it that we'll continue to add to it. But things like that game, our kids enjoy being able to go out and play against the police officers and understand that, they are people outside their uniform. And to go out there and play basketball or do the dodgeball games or just whatever activity we're doing, it really makes a big difference because it opens them up. When I started with Take Pause, my dad actually started it a couple years ago, actually a lot of years ago. And I was a kid in there where I was going through my own situation of life and I wasn't comfortable around law enforcement. I was fresh out of detention center. I had nothing positive I could have said about police at that time. And just, kind of being there helping my dad through his program and kind of made me see, a different view of police. And it kind of, opened me up to build that relationship. And so now being able to be back with Ishma doing Take Pause and helping other kids see, that same thing that, I was once that kid that I was, I didn't like the police. And so being able to do these things and build these relationships and trust, it goes a long way. Even I still, to this day work on my own relationship with law enforcement because of Take Pause. And so it just kind of gives me a different outlook on things when they happen. So it says youth examine the meaning of teamwork through scavenger hunt, sharing meals and conversations, small group discussions. Every time we get together, we do some type of dinner. I believe, the kids we work with, that we should do a dinner anyway, but there's a lot of bonding you can do over mealtime. So being able to kind of play a basketball game, play a dodgeball game, go to laser tag, whatever the situation is that we're doing, to be able to sit down afterwards and kind of debrief and eat a dinner really opens up for normal dialogue, normal conversations, and natural conversations.
And the unity of the community is something that Stanford came up with. Stop, he's so loading, it's so
She talked a lot before the game for whatever reason.
because I was supposed to. I'm an athlete, I'm competitive. We weren't going to win. I knew that. Unity in the community is very important. We also, with the unity in the community, also had a job fair. And so first one we had at Malone Center. And the idea was really to make sure that the kids have something to do during the summer. Or those that are coming out of high school that have a job and don't want to go to school. I was one of those people. I wasn't a great student, let's just put it that way. I was more of an athlete. So I wanted to give people an opportunity to have more. And it is about opportunities, but it was also opportunities for their parents. We know that there are better outcomes if the parents are more solid for the kids. If the parents can have everything that they need, most likely the outcome is going to be better for kids. Plain and simple. I think we all can agree with that, right? So we'll continue doing that every year. We didn't have a great attendance, but you know what? I think the thing is, it's always, I did this in my last job. The target were drug dealers. It was a lot. I worked in the Tenderloin, if anyone knows San Francisco. The target were the drug dealers. They did not have the opportunities that other people had. And so when they said to me, I'm a felon, I can't have a job, I said, that's BS. You can, because you're bringing everybody to the table that will hire you knowing that you have a felony on your record. It's not an excuse. It's absolutely doable for you. And so that's kind of the idea, is give people opportunities where they're not going to necessarily think that they have them, but really to move it forward for them. So the SRO program, I know there's a lot of controversy about SROs, and we want to leave some time for you guys to ask questions of us at the end. So, SROs are something that work in Lincoln. We have a great relationship with the schools, with the kids within the schools, and we're able to bridge a gap. And why does it work in Lincoln? It doesn't work in all places, right? I think we can agree to that, right? But they have counselors in all schools. Anyone from LPS here? Nobody? Okay. Any teachers here? In general? No? They have counselors in schools in which we can help the kids faster. So we didn't necessarily have that way back when, right? And so it works really well. And so the police officers are advocates. And we want to help the kids the best that we can. Is it always perfect? No, it's not. Do we have guns and violence in school? Yes, we do. But we try to stop it before it begins, and we try to get the kids help. We have Tipping Point is a program that we have with our gang unit. We try to work with those kids, and we try to get them to a place where they don't have to be in gangs. And being in gangs is a complicated subject, but the thing is that we have to have people that are trained in a way to help the kids. And I'll tell you the difference between SROs in other places and SROs here. I get to personally pick the SROs here. SROs in other places are people that have gotten in trouble and that don't care about kids. It's just an easy job in their mind, and they get summers off if they want. That's not acceptable in my mind. It's not acceptable for my people either. Our SROs have a vested interest. Some of them grew up in Lincoln. Some of them really wanted more for kids than what they had. And so that's why I really take it seriously when we put SROs in schools, and I'm able to pick them personally. And they have to articulate why they want to do it, and why the kids are gonna benefit from them. And so it's really, really important. They get additional training, as you can see on the slide. It's in-depth training, and it's not just once. The training is continuous, and they're meeting continuously. And so it's very important that people understand that. It's not just a one-off, whereas law enforcement used to just train one time. I got training in 1995. You think that counts for 2023? No, but that's how we work. And so we make sure that all of our people are continuously training and understand what is happening today for kids.
Yeah. We have, and I know, like I said, really quick, just to clarify, Stanford, what we call it, Take Pause 1.0, Stanford has this 2.0, because there's so much room for the work to be done, right? And with my program, with our programs, we go 2 times a month that we have programming, Stanford 2 times a month as well. And so, and with different groups of youth, right? And I think what's really important as well, really quick, is to also, going back to some of the relationship building, is also making sure that you're reaching out to different programs. Partnerships are huge, because I learned a long time ago that I don't have all the ideas, of course, and everyone that I meet has so many, they just have better ideas than me so many times, right? And you have so many different people that work with youth in different sectors that you need to reach out to. So it's always, I think with these programs, if you're thinking about starting a program like this, if you want to get a program like this going with your nonprofit or with your community, it's great to build relationships and just keep reaching out and talking to people. Like I said, when we work with the Asian Center, right? I don't work with kids from Yazidi culture, but I work with black kids, right? But we have an influx of Yazidi immigrants coming here, and so we need to reach out to different folks and be able to bring them into this conversation. I don't specifically work with kids just who are in gangs, but of course I work with Matthew Cries for Ribs, and we bring his kids or his program to our Take Pauses so that they can experience those too, which is huge, right? To get these kids that are thinking about being in gangs or in a gang to have a different view of the police. And I know Stanford, he goes and works with a multitude of different programs and things as well to bring youth to these programs. So I want to make sure that when you're building a program like this, ego has to be out of the way, thinking that you can do it all by yourself, right? You have to reach out to different programs, to different people, to bring them in, to really get different youth involved. You also work with Steve Soleri over at the I'm gonna mess up the name. My Spanish is horrible. But who said it for me? El Centro Cochos de las Americas, right? Bang bang. Right? Again, because I don't work with Hispanic youth, but we need to bring those youth as well into these programs. So working with different people is another huge thing of making programs like this work. So you can make sure that you have a wide base of diversity, right? I know what I know, and I can help who I can help, but we need to make sure we're bridging that gap to work with others as well. When we talk about activities and sitting down and having that conversation, I love how he said we always have a meal. We break bread, right? Break bread, that's an old world tenet that continues. When you sit down and you share a meal with somebody, it does something. It really does something. And to have that time where you can do that is amazing, and these natural conversations happen during the mealtime. During the activity time, for example, and it isn't always just athletic, right? We do things like go paint yourself silly. I think Sarah got one of our paint yourself silly events where the kids are literally painting pottery with the police. And so you have these times where they can have fun, and the conversations that happen are just totally organic, right? And they get to really have organic conversations where it isn't just question and answer things like, how do you feel about police? How do you think that you can be nicer to police? Or how do you think you can be nice to kids? Instead, they're having these conversations that are truly organic and truly mean something, to where they're really getting to know each other. And so when these police come to these events, they're on first name basis with the kids. Kids are on first name basis with the police, right? Before we start, they're like, hey, Ishma, is Rick coming today? Hey, Ishma, is Courtney coming today? right? They know these police by first name. That's so important, right? And it's a treasure that we have in our community. There isn't so very many communities where teens can call out police by their first names, right? It's really an amazing thing. And so again, you can imagine how that translates on the streets. When you know a police person by their first name, like, no, he's cool, that's great. You know, he can help us. That's a totally different ball game when you're on that level. It really is. And so when we talk about those conversations as well, I just want to go back so we can get a full scope of kind of these things that happen. We do the nice, cool conversations where it's organic, but we also have conversations that are guided as well, where we ask the youth, hey, would you ever want to be a police officer? And of course, at the beginning, kids are like, nah, I don't want to be a cop, heck no. But then they talk to the police, and Rick will say, well, here's why I wanted to be a cop, right? Because I saw one time my friend got robbed, and it really hurt me inside, and I wanted to make a difference for that, and I wanted to be in a place where I could help people that are in that situation. And then the kid was thinking like, dang, I remember our house got robbed once. And then it kind of starts to click. Oh, so I can be a police officer to help my community, to help something that happened to me, right? It really clicks in their mind, and so they have, again, a different perception. One time we had a movie night. It was a controversial movie, I think you could say. We watched American Skin, if you know that movie, right? It's a Nate Parker movie, and Nate Parker makes controversial films. But one of the police officers that's been doing Take Pause now going on 3 years or so. I was looking back at old pictures, and I'm like, man, he looks young compared to now. But I look young too. But we were looking at this film, and it was one of his first times there. And going back when we talk about these exit surveys and things, I'm asking not only when youth are graduating from different programs and going on in their life, aging out or whatnot, but I always talk to the officers. I say, hey, what do you like about Take Pause? What's your favorite thing about what we've done at Take Pause? And I expect them to say, oh, you know, I get to play kickball, and I got Taylor on my team, and, you know, we're having a great connection, we're laughing, having fun. But one of the things that one of the officers said the last time I was just talking to him, he said, you know, my favorite moment at Take Pause was after that movie that we watched, American Skin. And we had these tough conversations. And there were these conversations of race, which can be tough and can be a little tense. And he said, that was my favorite thing, because these youth were questioning me, and I kind of got taken to the water a little bit on a couple of things, because he might have said something that kind of put his foot in his mouth. But he said the most amazing thing was they could see that I came back. I came back, and I kept coming, and I kept coming. So even the youth at first that were like, oh, really, he said that? He kept coming back. And now, again, like I said, they're on a first name basis with this police officer, and everybody asks every time, is he coming? Oh, is he gonna come? Is he gonna come this time? Right? And he's first to be picked on a team if the kids are captains. And because everybody wants him on their team, because they know that they can trust that he's coming back. So it's another thing. It's the same officers that we like to use over and over again, so it creates that consistency. It creates those real relationships. And I think that's huge, because a lot of people are like, oh, dang, we gotta watch Americans getting that stuff. Whoa. But again, like I said, he came back. That was the thing that stood in his mind from years ago. He said, you know, it might seem weird, but my favorite part was that night, because the kids could see that I was gonna come back, and I was gonna be consistent. And how huge is that in our communities, to know that our police are gonna be consistent, right? Even if you know, everybody's gonna get something wrong at some point, but we're consistent and we really show up every single time, then that tells something to the kids as well, right? If you're consistent, you show up every time, you can do great things can happen, our community can be great by that consistently showing up and really wanting to make a difference. What's up?
Sorry.
What's
I
up?
don't want
Don't
to
be
take away
sorry.
from your time to like speak,
What's
but
up?
I'm like passionate about this topic.
Bring it in.
So I was just gonna ask when you're gonna be done.
Oh, well, shoot, I mean, I can stop talking anytime.
I was just
But
like,
what's up?
I mean like your entire, like all of you when you're gonna be done.
Oh, I mean, I think what
We're
it
gonna have
is
that.
at 11, so we're gonna leave some time for questions. What, do you have a question?
No, it's just keep going. Just keep going.
Well, I'm
Go all day.
huh?
He said you can go all day.
No.
Oh, we
no.
can. Oh,
I
okay, we go.
please do not. I am super passionate about this, so I'm really glad I didn't follow my mom.
Okay.
But I wanna talk about some stuff, but you can keep going till you're done, and I can wait.
Hey, here's the thing, right? This panel is about what's most important is what you want out of it. So if you have something to say or a question or something, a comment, please, come on, bring it up.
You sure?
I'm 100%, 1000% sure.
Okay. So Jeremy, where you at? Okay, you gotta help me out. So I go to Lighthouse,
Yeah.
and you know my mom, Shonda, you know my mom.
100%.
So she talks about your cop club and stuff like that, and we do like something similar at Lighthouse.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you noticed, I've been like smiling this entire time.
Okay.
Because I absolutely love, like, I'm not one of the people who has ever had like a bad relationship with the police because they helped me when I needed it.
Yeah.
So it's like super nice because even though they helped me when I needed it, I still didn't, I don't want to say I didn't see them as human, but they didn't have like humanity within them because I just saw them as like figures of authority.
Sure.
And so when we go to the like cop club at Lighthouse with Jeremy, I can't remember any of their names, so
Okay.
don't hold that against
All
me.
right.
I have bad memory. But we've done some things with the cops, like what is the first thing that we did?
We did gingerbread houses, we did prehistoric putt.
That, when
bowling.
we did the putt-putt, okay, this is my favorite because one of the officers, she had a strong hand, okay? Because she launched that golf ball and we almost got hit with that thing. But it's my favorite because I felt like when I got a chance to like really like interact with them on a different level, it like gave them their humanity back. Like
Yeah.
I saw them as something more. And I'm gonna look away from you for a second.
Okay.
You're a cop, and I just have to say that your job is so cool because we've been
Taking applications, by the way.
We went to the like sheriff's office or whatever, and they showed us their dogs and what they can do. They showed us like how well trained they are and how they can sniff out drugs and this, that, and the other. And they drove us around their armored truck. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I was like, I did not know cops could do this. This is so amazing. And so when you guys are talking about this and the way that you guys are interacting with the cops and how, you guys can relate to the youth and everything like that, it's just my favorite because I can also relate to this topic. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We did prehistoric putt a couple months ago as well. I think it's great. Thank you. Anybody else that needs to stop me anytime, feel free. Maisha, what you got for us?
I just had a question. I know this is Q&A.
It's time.
Guys, let's just
It's
say,
time.
it's time. Let's go to the question slide.
Okay. Q&A. So first I want to say that this sounds like an amazing program, and the programs that are similar to it that's happening at different other, community sites. I really do love the strategy of making it more relational, that interaction between police officers and the youth, because as it was said, that is proven that a lot of times, in regard, on top of that bias as well, but one of the reasons why the relationship can be negative, or the interaction can be negative, because there is no relational feel. So, this person reminds me of my son, so therefore I know my son only does things when they're teenagers, so I let him off. And versus, so I understand, the strategy of that, and bringing the community, of course, and the police officers together. I feel like we've heard a ton, and then we got a special testimony here from how it has
My new recruit.
impacted. Yes. Of how it has impacted the youth, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about the outcomes and impact in regards to the police officers. Has this translated into the interaction when they are out there making stops and they're coming into contacts with youth of color? Has it, or maybe it's still working because it's new, but have you seen a translation in regards to that
Yes.
interaction?
Yeah, so, my cops are very special, in that they really care. And maybe it's part of them growing up in Lincoln or in Nebraska, I have no idea. But, I hear that, some cops are going and playing basketball and like, oh, I didn't know, that person was going. Because they have the ability to make decisions for themselves. They can go to any one of the organizations and spend time. And we absolutely encourage them to do so. It is part of their evaluation as well. If they're putting themselves out at the Malone Center or some of the other centers, then that's a plus for them, and that they get evaluated for that. And that's what we encourage, that's what we want. I think the thing that needs to really be said is that when, it doesn't matter what part of the country it happens, when law enforcement breaks the trust of the community, we all have to answer for it. And so with that, my hope, and you know, I've done this for 28 years, so I'm old. And you know, when that trust gets broken or perceived trust, meaning if there's an officer involved shooting and it was a legitimate shooting, and that's what I mean by that, then our relationships with the community are essential. So I would call all three of these guys at the Malone Center if something happened, in which we needed to get ahead of it and say, okay, this is the community, NAACP, everybody would be included, because those are the relationships that we need to build in order to really answer the questions. And stop, you know, any kind of violence that might occur within the community based on that. You know, the George Floyd, I was in San Francisco at the time. It was way before George Floyd that we broke trust, right? Way before. And so we have been having to build these relationships, but then they get torn down again with bad behavior by individuals. There's 80,000 police officers in the United States. But a handful can completely demolish 80,000 police officers. And that's the thing that we as law enforcement have to always answer to. And that's fine. I'm not gonna say I don't have to answer for the individuals that did stuff in another state, or even in Nebraska, because I do, because that's my job. But when we build these relationships and the officers are going and doing this great stuff, you know, we're starting books and badges, where cops are gonna go and speak and read books in different languages to kids. We're partnering with the libraries. We're always having to evolve. We always have to create these relationships. And they're a huge part of this, and I appreciate everything the Malone Center has done. But our officers love it. They love going out and doing things.
And really quick, I want to speak kind of directly to that as well when it comes to police officers. I've seen direct examples where I've been really happy to hear. For example, one of our police officers, and again, we talk a lot, we talk a whole lot, and so they tell us stories, because the kids are asking, hey, you know, when's the time that you pull people over? When's the time that you pull out your gun? When's the time that you do this or that? And one time we were talking, and the cop was talking to me personally, right? Because a lot of times we come and we meet before. And so he said to me personally, he said, Ishma, you know, I was on the beat last night, and there was a report that somebody had a gun, and I was chasing them down. And I've done the Citizens Academy, right? Where you do like a 7-week trial of cop training or whatnot, right? And we got to shoot we had the shooting range and everything, then you shoot these like training guns, do a little arcade simulation and everything like this. So I've had a little taste, just a little taste of the cop thing they're trying to recruit me to. My hair's too long.
So not true.
It wasn't for it, but seriously. I mean, but that's something else that they've been changing, right? To help different people get in there. But at the time, my hair was too long. But seriously, what's really, really monumental about these type of programs and the types of things that LPD is willing to do and to stand up for is because then he was saying, while I was on the beat, there was a person with a gun, and Ishma, he turned around and he had a drop on him, right? He said, I didn't decide to pull out my gun and chase him down from behind my gun out, right? Instead, I went for my taser. I didn't decide to have my gun out. He said he turned around and he had the drop on him. She could have shot me. But I just didn't go reach right ahead and just start, shooting that guy. And he says, I know that the time that I've spent doing this program has helped that. And that's huge, again, because I remember, and this is years ago, this is before you, Chief, but when I was in that training, we're in the arcade simulator, so it's literally like a cool video game and whatnot, and there's a report of a gun. A person had a gun at Pioneers Park, I believe, and they say, and I was like, okay, and you do the thing, hey, excuse me, this is Ishma from the LPD, they kind of tell you how to do things, and they said, no, Ishma, you have to have your gun out, because there was a response, or, thing of a gun. And I was like, should I have my gun out right now? They're like, no, you need to have your gun out. But again, this guy, he decided not to chase this guy down with his gun, this particular police officer. Said, Ishma, I know that was a change from doing Take Pause. And that's huge, and what I like to say is that this programs like these, they can help to not have the next catastrophe. Like, these are the proactive things that stop the next catastrophe from happening, just from these personal relationships that we're going. And so, and I've heard a couple stories like that, where, again, another time, police officer said, he just called me because we have relationships, and it's great. You got a relationship with a real community, what some people call me a leader, whatever. But you say, hey, Ishma, you know what? This kid from Take Pause, he's running around with his crew. Can you talk to him and say, hey, you keep running around with this crew, you're gonna get on like a gang list or a gang potential list. And hey, I saw this kid out here, I realized he has a warrant, it's a bench warrant, he has a fine he needs to pay. Can you have him go, because we go up to 18 sometimes with these programs, say, hey, it's a fine he has to pay, can you go ahead and tell him he has a fine, because I don't want him to just get arrested over a fine, a bench warrant. Then I'm able to go and talk to the kid, find the kid, take him to, get him a new court date really fast, pay his fine off, on a bench warrant, and how much of a difference is that? Then the cop saying, oh, I see the kid, I'm going to arrest him, take him in, he has a bench warrant and get him in. But instead, that's taxpayer waste of money, right? Instead, he gets to call me and say, hey, Ish, this kid has a bench warrant. If I see him, I'm gonna have to do something, so help him take care of it. He needs help, I can help find out something with the court date. How can we help this person? So that's, I think, was huge with police, that the type of changes that it's able to make. They're actually able to call me, or they can call Stanford and say, hey, look, this person I can see something going on here, help with this. Or, hey, there's a string of parties happening, and at these parties that are happening, this was something that was happening, at these parties happening, there's been robberies at these parties. And it was a Sudanese community issue where there was a group of Sudanese kids that were showing up to these parties, and then all of a sudden a robbery would happen. And he's like, look, I can see something really bad happening with this, right? They're gonna rob some house, somebody's gonna get shot, something bad's gonna happen. How can we address this? And so they're asking, how can we address this? Instead of just, again, being that other side of law enforcement, right? It's a real relationship that's stemming out of this program. And again, I'm happy that LPD is able to still support this and make it happen, because not everybody will.
So I'm here because our law enforcement, the kids I work with, I always ask a question. I'm good about law enforcement. I ask that question at every single case when I was a probation officer and now I'm the version coordinator. And a lot of them say I respect, but then there's the ones that say, and my response to that, I have a nephew that's in law enforcement, I have two brother-in-laws in law enforcement. My sister-in-law's the supervisor of or my sister is the supervisor of dispatch where I'm from.
Where are you from?
South Sioux. So I like to say, and I dispatch prior to any of this too, so I like to say, I have known some of these guys for over 20 years and they're not what you think they are. And a lot of these kids think this because of exactly what he said. They've seen their parents getting taken away since they were little, and they hate the police because of it. So I try to bring a police officer into my office, and they'll sit down with us, and we'll have a conversation, and I try to explain to them they're not all bad. That's not what happens. There's a bad one here and there, but 99% of them are good guys. And I just, the stuff that you guys interact with, our SROs are awesome. They'll call me if a kid doesn't want to talk to them, they'll actually call me. But if I ask about the SRO at our high school, the kids say, I'll say, hey, Officer Van Berkel, and they'll say, look, Shorty. That's what every kid in school calls him Shorty.
Yeah.
They don't know this. So it's kind of cool. I want them to get more eyes. Like the basketball stuff would be really cool. Because a lot of those kids they'll give me information that they know with the police.
You know what, you bring up an interesting point. Law enforcement has to seek out their partners. Plain and simple. If you, as a chief, I come from a different organization, a different state, I have to seek out my relationships. Also, looking at the current relationships. but you have to look and seek out those relationships. And people that will give you a chance to create programming that is going to help on all sides. And sometimes mediation is a good way of doing that. When I say that is that you and I can have discourse. We are not happy with each other. I pull you over, let's just say hypothetically. But you're angry at me. So there's programs in which we can sit down with a mediator and have that conversation, and they're that bridge. So we can have a greater understanding of each other. Now, does anyone ever have a bad day? Right? Police officers have bad days. They do. And I use this example a lot. My mom was dying. I was a police officer at the time. I was working plainclothes, gangs, drugs, in a very difficult district in San Francisco. I had to make the decision because I was so stressed about losing my mom. I was not behaving right with individuals on the street. I had no patience at all. I made that decision because I had a great lieutenant that said, okay, you need to take time off. And it's hard to realize that as a police officer because you think you can do anything, you're Superwoman, whatever, right? But the thing is that you have to understand that police officers get divorced, they have cancer, their partners have cancer, they lose their parents, they lose their kids. We are humans. But give some grace. If somebody's a jerk and is a police officer, then we have no space for them because you will not treat community badly. And that's why we are very picky on who we bring into law enforcement. I will not lower standards. I will understand things better, but I won't lower the standards because it's how they're going to treat. If they're in their private life don't get along with others, that makes no sense. Why am I going to have you be a police officer and interact with communities that need your understanding and be a good community member? That doesn't make sense. And so, having a greater understanding about where people are in their lives, but also where they come from, is so important. It just is. Ma'am, do you have a question?
Yeah. So I wrote down part of the mission, not all of it, because it went away rather quickly. But it's to create positive interactions between teens, their families, and the police department. So I'm just wondering, what does the program do for the members of those kids' families? Is there a group for parents to be able to talk about their perspectives and sit down with those police officers, or are they just observing their children's interactions with LPD?
Okay, I'll start. Hey, let me start.
He's not shy.
First thing, when the kids get to come home and say, I hung out with this officer and had a really great time, right? And that automatically can help when it comes to perceptions or to that relationship building, saying, oh, my kid's having fun with this person, he doesn't see this person as bad. Maybe there is a difference there or a way in. Also, with the activities that we have, right, we do let the parents come if they'd like to. The parents definitely can come and can participate in that. And just a sidebar from Take Pause a few years ago, and it's what I encourage other people to do too, I wanted to say, is create programs. Don't be afraid to create programs that have that interaction family-wide as well. A few years ago, we had a really great thing. It was a random acts of kindness, where we got it set up with donors to where through the Malone, through donors, that the police got to go around and literally just give out randomly, and we got some community centers and things too. They gave out just cash to families, $300 to families. So that shows trust. First thing, I trust you. I don't care. Some people say, oh, what if they go spending on this, this, and that? Well, the police are showing I trust you, right? We're going to give you that trust and that just grace. Say, here you go. I don't know what you need it for. I'm not going to tell you what you need it for. You may need to pay a bill, you need to pay or buy Christmas presents or something. So when you watch the whole family come around that, where parents are very excited, oh my goodness, can't believe it. Some parents crying for this $300 gift, this random act of kindness. Then the kid sees, oh my goodness, mom is crying, so excited, so happy, something totally different than like you were saying, taking a kid, taking a parent out the home. Instead, they're seeing a police officer make their parents' day. Or instead of pulling them over, giving them a ticket, now parents are upset, kids are like, oh, you asshole, you just pulled over my mom and now we don't have money for bills. But instead, they're giving them something, which usually doesn't get to happen, right? But because LPD was so flexible and able to make this work, we were able to do something like that. We created amazing memories for hundreds of families. So those programs are able to happen if you get creative and you make those relationships where you can do that type of thing. And it filters down the whole family. And then what does that mom do or that dad do? Then they tell brother, hey, look, cops just gave me $300. Now I can go and we can get the lights on, or we can go fix this in our car. And that goes a long ways when you get to have that. It just reverberates, and it's like a ripple effect. It keeps going, but it's a positive ripple effect. Instead of, oh, this asshole pulled me over, and dang it, now I don't have this, now I don't have that, right? And so it's a reverse ripple effect in a positive way that we're able to do through building things like this. Like Take Pause is happening, and we're able to build on that with the relationships that we have and do other things like that. But yes, with the Take Pause, the parents can come. I know you can talk about your big activities that you do where the whole community is invited, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be clear, because sorry, I wasn't going to talk, but this is grant funded, and so what he was talking about has nothing to do with Take Pause. This was something totally separate. So for those of you in the room that are funding Take Pause as state and federal funders, it was not.
So like I said, that's built on the Take Pause because we have a relationship with Take Pause. No, seriously, because, and it's so important, because we're able to build on the Take Pause model, right, of community, policing, with these relationships, then, as like I said, that was donor funded, but thanks for clarifying, but I did say it was donor funded.
You have 5 minutes.
Very positive thing. Sorry, I made Sarah upset.
Like Ishmael said, you can get one kid to come and invest their time and, build those relationships. They go home, they have a younger brother that didn't want to come to the program because they've seen the activities, or they, enjoy, hearing the stories of what their siblings are doing. So it just kind of keeps that, family cycle. Now we're at the point where we got some that are going into high school, and now they have a little brother in middle school that's now able to come and join Take Pause. So that's kind of how that impacts the family. But I think what Take Pause, another big reason why it works is because the kids that are in the program, they look like the people that are overseeing the program. And so having that representation in place for a program like this impacts it a lot more if they would have just grabbed somebody from the school that doesn't have the relationship, it doesn't have the life experience to match what the kids are going through and understanding what they're going through and to help them through those conversations.
Was there a question in front?
Yes. Hi, my name is Priscilla, coming from Boystown. I used to work as a school counselor in a middle school, and my question is, how do you work with Hispanic kids that used to come here? Because what I experienced when I was there, most of the new students, teenagers that we were getting, were students that were coming in the caravans, like from South America here. And some of them were actually waiting for months in the Mexican border, but also when they were coming into the States, they were waiting in the children's center or whatever that they had in Arizona. And so most of these kids were very defensive. They were like, they didn't really trust in anybody. They were like thinking police officers, everybody, not really like that. And because all the things that they were already going through were too much for their age. Probably more than, at their age, I cannot imagine, going through all these situations. So they do not trust. And they're usually, hanging out with those that are coming from the same situation that they're coming from. And it's when they started getting, more in trouble. And then, usually what I hear from them is I didn't want to come here. I came because my parents, made me to come with them. I don't like to be here. I want to go back to my country. Here everybody's different. Nobody likes us here because we are Hispanic. Honduras, from El Salvador. I mean, they, and with teachers and with everyone who was trying to help, they were very like defensive, and they want help, but at the same time, they're afraid to get that help. So how do you work with those teenagers when they're on the streets?
Yeah, definitely. Same thing, first thing are partnerships. So having the different cultural centers that really aid those youth, having, bridging that gap with them so they can bring them to our program. And then also it's just the same model of having fun activities. So it isn't just a sit down, you conversating, and we break that tension by having fun. So if we're at the pumpkin patch, we have a whole bunch of group of kids, and then they're playing the foosball soccer game, and they're just hanging out, having fun. And so it just takes down that barrier. But I would just say fun. We literally just have fun in the Take Pause program. We bring kids together just to have fun. Example,
You know, if I could just add something really quick. So my executive assistant, Roy Rivera, is here. We started a program where we have a Hispanic forum within the police department, and we're going to expand that to other groups within the community. But Roy's done a lot of work with the schools, and it's a group of police officers, but also community members who help him. So if you want to speak to him after, and you guys can exchange numbers. We're very open to trying new things. Yes, we're aware of the really, whether it's the news, whatever it might be with the Hispanic community, we're well aware of what's happening, and we want to make sure that people feel comfortable here. But we have to reach them. That's really the important part.
So what happens when the youth like graduates or is too old to be in like the Malone Center or F Street's mainly for older kids anyway, but what other programs are there in the community for the older teens that can't go to like CLC and all of that? I know we have the Bay and the Lighthouse in F Street. Is there any other programs that the police are involved in for the older kids?
You know, we have a lot of different programs. We mainly work with our partners, to be honest with you. When they age out, you know, there's only so much that we can do. Because when they're under 18, then we have a little more leeway. Especially with their family. But we try to connect as much as possible. We started a program, Observation for Services, in which we try to connect families with services within the city, but also the nonprofits in the community. So that can be mental health, that can be food, that can be clothes, that can be a lot of different things. And the officers, when they go and respond to that community member, whether it be inside a house, a business, on the street, if they see that there's a need for food, let's just say, use that as an example, we've partnered with the food bank and we have bags of food that we can take immediately to the family, but also sign them up for things. And so that connection, and I know it's not really answering your question very well, but you know, it's one of those things that we started because we know that what the officers see every single day, because they engage the police officers in here, you engage with more people than any other profession. I mean, every single day. So that has been very, very positive for us.
If you leave your business card, I can get you resources too, if you leave it up here. And we actually are out of time, and there's a line of people waiting to come in from the